Уважаемые участники,
Dear participants of International Forum Astana, we are starting our session, Eurasia, Unlocking Growth, Embracing Global Trends.
welcome to the session Eurasia Unlocking Growth, Embracing Global Trend. На сцену приглашаются спикеры сессии.
We would like to invite speakers.
Серик Жумангарев, заместитель премьер,
Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Economy,
Minister of National Economy of Kazakhstan. Алексей Аверчук, заместитель председателя правительства Российской Федерации. Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation. Абдулла Заед, директор по СНГ компании Masdar. Director of Project and Business Development for CIS Masdar. Рэ Квон Чон, лауреат Нобелевской премии, член Совета директоров фонда Пан Ги Муна за лучшее будущее. Nobel Prize laureate, Board Director of the Pan Ki-moon Foundation for a Better Future. Бакыт Сыдыков, министр экономики и коммерции Кыргызской Республики. Minister of Economy and Commerce of the Kyrgyz Republic. Геворг Папаян, министр экономики Республики Армения. Minister of Economy of the Republic of Armenia. Мустафа Адиль, руководитель исламских финансов группы Лондонской фондовой биржи. Head of Islamic Finance, London Stock Exchange Group. И модератор сессии Николай Подгузов, председатель правления Евразийского банка развития, Chairman of the Eurasian Development Bank.
Добрый день.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to see all of you on this Astana International Forum. Today, we are discussing issues that are related to the development of our region, which is Eurasia. Eurasia, unlocking growth, embracing global trends. The topic itself for our region is quite a relevant one. The region is huge, vast, with 300 million population. Central Asia probably is the rapid growth, the fastest growing region, that the trends are quite fast on economic growth. The GDP went over than $500 billion. The direct foreign investment amount to 17 times. Kazakhstan is central economy of Central Asia. Whole Eurasian region is in a state of further dynamic growth and identifying own place in global economy. I would like to draw your attention that during our session we're going to conduct electronic voting on main comprising components of the growth of the region. What is the main driver, whether it is external or internal demand, green economy, innovations? Well, I have a favor to ask, to scan QR code that you see right in front of yourselves during the session. Depending on the presentations of our speakers and what influence they would have, and we're going to track, keep an eye how the voting would change and what we're going to see. So Eurasian Bank of Development is the Bank of Development, the mission of which is to support growth of economy of the regions, of countries of the region, including Uzbekistan, which had been joined and for the economy of the region. So for us, today's discussion is very important and valuable. I would like to start our panel session from giving a floor to Vice Prime Minister of Russian Federation, Alexei Logovich Averchuk. Russia is the main economy of Eurasia. It is the center and nuclear of the common market. Together with Kazakhstan, it is the center of logistic routes. Russia plays a key role in development of industrial cooperations, and without vision of Russia in the further development of the region, it is impossible to have dynamic growth. Alexei, please. Thank you so much, Nikolai. First of all, I would like to express gratitude to Republic of Kazakhstan, hosting country, for inviting and participation on this international forum. And I would like to note that the organization is a superb one, and I would like to express gratitude for this opportunity to speak on this panel session. Well, we could see that EBRD is growing. It is helping to implement projects in energy sector, transport and logistics, which are the main foundation. It is providing $2.5 billion in different currency and also scales up the capital and equity. And of course, I would like to also congratulate EBRD with Uzbekistan joining to the region, and I would like to wish best of luck to this country as well. Regarding Kazakhstan, I would like to say that Kazakhstan is the essential part of Central Asia and Eurasia itself, and it has its own benefits, and we benefit from cooperating mutually, of course, and some leading role is played by Russian Union as well. And there are a lot of unions like Eurasian Economic Union as well as other unions together with Russia and Kazakhstan, and that also contributes into the global changes and the growth for the new resources and the problems for the water scarcity issues and the accessibility to the fresh water and the dangers that it might have, the disruptions in the international chain of supply, redirecting the investments, and introducing the tariffs as well as different barriers, economic barriers, and of course the digital growth and digital transformation and artificial intelligence also play a role in these changes. And all of it is reflects on the government growth and, of course, on Eurasia. In this regard, I would also like to note that Putin, the president of Russian Federation, had seen the initiatives for the cooperation which are directed towards improvement of the conditions of investment and trade and big Eurasia. Well, our countries that are part of the Eurasian Economical Union, we already have good foundation for promotion of our export on the market of the global south. We are on the way of concluding the agreements. We already have an agreement with Vietnam, Serbia. It is in effect since 15th of May. We also have concluded agreements with Iran. And the market itself here amounts to more than 90 million people. This is how we are moving forward in order to supply with goods and supply with competitive environment and provide accessibility for competitors to global market with a good quality of consumption. And of course, in order to develop our big region, it is necessary to have high quality logistics, and it is necessary to have transport corridors that would provide the least consuming shipment and for strengthening economic connectivity, which is necessary, and it is the collective response for the modern global challenges that I have mentioned. So here it is important to create system of international transport corridors on whole Eurasian transport carcass. And I would like to say that Eurasian Bank of Development is, of course, very important element of the successful work of which transport connectivity will depend on. And when we elaborate regarding the transport connectivity, we talk about two directions, which is the north, south, and east to west, or west to east. Most of the times, we think that the challenge is to provide the transport connectivity between north and south of our Eurasian continent is rather a challenging one. And first and foremost, we mention the development and mastering those routes that we already have of international corridor north-south. And here, it is also necessary to mention the work that is conducted in Caspian region. We are elaborating on eastern road that connects to Baltics and north of Russia with Azerbaijan through Iran and Iranian ports in Persia. And we have agreement with Islamic Republic, and in May we had started the survey projects for the construction of the 260 kilometers of route railways between Astara, Iran-Azerbaijan borders, and Iranian Resht. So this is the work that had became practical one and will create good conditions for the connectivity for the western shores of the Caspian. And together with that, we also develop marine transportations, and they are connected to some of the issues. We know the issues of Caspian, not only because of the problems of the levels of the Caspian, and we are right now starting to develop the Caspian route through Azerbaijan to Iran. And since October of 2022, we had started the container transportation and fertilizers, And of course, we think that we will have more and more demand in this regard with Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. It's very important routes and directions and areas, and we need to take into consideration Trans-Afghanistan route, which is also connected to the east, north, and south. And you know that there are project survey works, and we are preparing the feasibility plans, which is also interesting and key routes that will provide the land transportation and connectivity with south through Iran and Afghanistan to Pakistan. And of course, we would like to establish friendly and amicable relations in order to provide railway transportation between Russia, Pakistan, India as well. On Pakistan, we right now progressing with the preparation work. All of this work is leading us that in Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, the real railway crossroads are created where key trade routes being established. I always highlight that those conditions that allow us to speak about development of the land transportation, which is the safe routes, if we talk about Eurasia, of course, they had been established in our time. I think for the first time when Silk Road ceased to exist, and Eurasian Bank of Development pays a lot of attention on development of this issue. And of course, countries, Iran, for example, Russia, is benefiting from this fact. And those countries who are landlocked countries, which has colossal transit potential, the countries that are investing into their economy, as we could see on the example of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, also Kyrgyz Republic, we see the potential for the growth. And this is the basis. Well, success for creating the transport carcass, it is primarily depend on the soft infrastructure, which is based on the three principles: harmonization, coordination, and digitalization. So here I would like to draw your attention of this panel session to a very important document that in December 2024 had been signed by the country members of the Eurasian Union, which also going to be foundation of the union and transportation. This document actually provides the single unified declaration in order to have unified provision of payment for custom clearance on the territory that is transported on the territory of the countries of Eurasian Union. And this agreement is open for joining to the countries that are not members of the Eurasian Economic Union, but would like to benefit from this union due to geographical location and integration and union. So this kind of agreement actually forms the platform in order to be connected to the customs union. And of course, I shall also mention on the connectivity of the Eurasian Economic Union with the initiatives of the One Belt, One Road initiative that comes from China, which is manifested in the road map of the economical cooperation, which is dedicated to the issues of the digital support and provision in order to have paperless work during the transportation, as well as mastering the procedures on the international checking points, as well as development of the trade. It is also important to mention a role of the harmonization of the standards and requirements of the goods. And here, Eurasian Economic Union also contributes a lot. And nowadays, with all technical regulations, we have covered 85% of the goods that are exchanged between the countries that are members of this union, which also will influence on transparency and predictability, and also will promote the import for the countries that are in this integration union. And here we mention, of course, the CIS countries that are in the Eurasian Economic Union. And of course, we have started working with involving the countries into the regulations and development of regulations, and we are going to work with other countries of the members of Economical Union and any other countries that would be interested and would like to have the better conditions for the access to our market.
Of course, talking about the economy of present days, we have to talk about energy field as well. The contribution of Russia plays a key role here, first of all, for the energy security of northern Eurasia. Here we're working a lot on forming common ways of forming the electrical market. Last year we have signed the documents which will regulate the trading mechanisms, which allow in real time a regime to sign the contracts and balance the energetical flows between our countries. We are planning that the market will be commenced in 2027. As for the development of the natural gas market, the negotiations were for 14 years, and last year, during the meeting of the Council, the head of states have concluded that the market that we currently have between our 5 countries and the relationship that have been formed in this area are the relations of our common natural gas market. None will argue that this market provides the customers the best conditions, taking into account the market situation in the world. This contributes to the development of the economy of the participants of this market and the relations that we have in this market relating to the forming of common market of oil. We are talking about the price of oil which is formed on the global markets. And we are working based on the international agreements. We also have the cooperation in other fields. We also cooperate in the supply of energy components. And of course, we support development of export and production of all products from energy complex. We have a lot of possibilities and opportunities in this region, specifically here in Kazakhstan, when we are talking about development of the chemical industry. This supports the creation of high technology economy in this region. This is the area which is of high interest of EDB. Of course, we realize that we have to develop the generating powers, and the demand for energy is increasing. We have the technologies, we have knowledge and experience in the area of renewable energy sources and non-renewables. We are working in this area a lot with other countries of the region. The separate area is related to the development of nuclear energy. This is undoubtedly the most perspective and real area of the development of generation. We see huge potential in agricultural sector. This issue is related to water supply for this region. I think this problem is very acute to this region. I know that Eurasian Development Bank has highly professional view on how to solve this issue in the region and how to support the countries and to supply water and to develop the agriculture in the region. During the panel session we heard, during the plenary session we heard, Secretary General said that the Kazakhstan has huge potential of 1 billion people. This is a huge number. And if we add up the possibilities of Russia, we realize that our countries and the countries of our regions can reach a lot and can do a lot to solve the problems of food security, which are very pressing in the world as well. This is a good area for investments. I think I have said very briefly. Nikolai, thank you very much. Thank you very much for such speech and broad vision. We see how the voting is changing, how the results of voting is changing. We see that external demand is 85%. It is the leading one. The EU is the youngest and the fastest growing economic union, and I'm sure that your effort and the efforts of countries in this union will continue.
Mr. Abdullah Zayed, Director of Project and Business Development for CIS at Masdar. Masdar is the UAE's leading clean energy company and one of the true world leaders in renewables. Masdar manages an impressive global portfolio of over 51 gigawatts of clean energy. I know that Masdar's plans for CIS is also huge. Now you executed already 3 gigawatts of solar and wind in CIS, which is 20% of the total market of CIS. Mr. Zayed, is renewable energy really the road to the future? How can renewable energy initiatives support the region's energy transition? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nicola. First of all, Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here in Kazakhstan and Astana and to meet with brothers and friends here in the country. Over the last 2 decades, Masdar have became one of the largest renewable energy company globally. We have now, as Nicola mentioned, more than 50 gigawatt of renewable energy projects globally. We are active in more than 40 countries, basically covering all continents around the globe. We specialize, obviously, in renewable energy projects, whether it was solar and wind specifically. And we also have projects when it comes to geothermal projects and waste-to-energy projects. In Eurasia, particularly in Kazakhstan, we see massive potential when it comes to renewable energy projects. We started our journey in the region in 2017, and we've managed to strike a landmark agreement with the Kazakhstan government together with our partners such as Samruk Khazana, KIDF, the Ministry of Energy, the Financial Settlement Center, and others in the country to develop 1 gigawatt wind projects plus 600 megawatt hour battery projects with critical infrastructure. So what does this project mean? I mean, this project means we'll be able to develop or deliver 1 gigawatt of clean, green, renewable energy coming from wind. It also means we'll be able to store the intermediate generation from wind through the battery storage component as part of the project to be able to support the grid, enhance the stability of the grid itself. On top of that, as part of the project, we're going to build more than 400 kilometers of transmission lines that will connect the project to 2 substations in the Jambul region that will also allow further development of clean energy projects in the region in Kazakhstan. We, as Masdar, are extremely proud to be given this opportunity to work here in Kazakhstan, and we think the potential is much larger than this single project that we are doing. I mean, this project itself is massive, yes. It will attract more than $1 billion of investment. However, there is much, much more that can be done in the country. And recently, we've also signed an agreement with Samruk Khazana, a collaboration agreement to develop in the RTC project. And RTC stands for round-the-clock projects. The idea of this project is to deliver a base load capacity of 500 megawatt for 24 hours throughout the year through renewable energy sources. On top of that, we've also signed an agreement to develop battery storage, standalone battery storage solutions, multiple projects around the country to also help stabilize the grid and control the intermediacies from the renewable energy projects in the country itself. To give a benchmark on this type of project and these ideas, this is the new thing in the renewable energy sector, whereby you try to control the intermediacy of the generation of electricity. And the reason why it became the new thing and the new focus for most of the countries around the globe is that the technological advancement in the BESS and the battery components has reached a level where it can compete with the traditional sources of generation when you couple it with renewable energy. So we reached a point where it's an important point in history, I believe myself, that you'll be able to further accelerate the development of renewable energy when you couple it with battery storage. Back home in UAE, we've managed to develop 1 gigawatt base load of green electricity coming from solar plus BESS. And to do that, we had to install 5 gigawatt of solar in one single site, plus close to 20 gigawatt hour of battery. So the size itself is obviously massive, requires also a big piece of land. But ultimately, with this combination of 5 gigawatt solar and 19 gigawatt of battery, we are able to provide 1 gigawatt of base load green electricity throughout the day, throughout the year, for 20 years at least, right? And the beautiful thing about it, or the groundbreaking thing about it, is that it competes with the conventional generation. So it is not subsidized, it's not more expensive, it is competing with the conventional generation, which the idea of it to give a base load generation. In the region, Nicola, as you mentioned, we've been in the region for quite some time. We are one of the largest developers in the region. We are active in Uzbekistan, in Azerbaijan, in Georgia, and we're discussing with the Kyrgyzstan government, in Tajikistan, in Turkmenistan, and so on. We are a big advocate of connectivity. We believe connectivity is an important thing for this region to thrive, whether it was electricity connectivity, gas connectivity, green hydrogen connectivity, transport roads connectivity, and so on. To be able for the region to thrive, connectivity is extremely important, and we are a big advocate when it comes to connectivity, especially in green electricity and electricity, since it's our scope as Masdar. And we see a lot of advancements in the region, and we see a lot of positive movements when it comes to advocating for green electricity, renewable energy resources. As Masdar, we have seen the potential for a long time, and we are ready to support any government, any partner that we have in the region to accelerate this growth in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Zayed. I'm sure that Masdar's activity will contribute significantly to sustainable development of Eurasian region and Central Asia in particular. Our next speaker, I would like to introduce Re-Kwon Chon, the Nobel Prize laureate and board director of the Ban Ki-moon Foundation for a Better Future. Mr. Chon, you are known as an expert and professional in pushing green economy model growth, and it's very interesting to me to ask you about how you can see that particular model in the Eurasian region, given the fact that traditional sources of energy in Eurasia are still in place and probably dominate, as they are cheaper and probably have better access to population. So what is your view? Could you share with us your thoughts, please?
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation from Eurasian Development Bank. I have been promoting the idea of green growth idea, green economic growth, from 2005, 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago. I was trying to present climate change and the ecological crisis as an opportunity for investment. So I always thought that climate change is not just a cost, pain, and burden. It can be an opportunity like a renewable energy from Masdar. It can be an investment opportunity and a growth opportunity. So it depends on how we look at the crisis. It can be an opportunity. So that's why I was trying to turn it around. The ecological crisis can be economic growth opportunity. That was the idea of green growth. So I initiated this idea for the first time in UN system, and I was promoting it from Korea and in many other Asian Pacific countries. And at that time, Kazakhstan was the first country that accepted the green growth idea from Korea, and then initiated the Green Bridge initiative. Green Bridge means linking Europe and Asia with the green growth paradigm. That was the Green Bridge, very unique initiative, is born in Astana in 2010, October. It was born here. And so Kazakhstan has been quite a proactive driver of green growth paradigm. And as you say, the challenge between sustainability and the need for fast economic growth is really very challenging to have them at the same time. So even at this stage, because I started the green growth idea 20 years ago, but now when I looking back, even after 2 decades, I'm thinking whether did I succeed or not, right? And I found it is still an uphill battle. It's very difficult to change it because we are still very much focused on short-term return, while green growth is a long-term paradigm. So there's a time gap. So who can close this time gap is a very important issue. Still is a very important issue. I don't have enough time to explain about the policy issues. So I'll present one global trend that can present an opportunity for unlocking growth for this panel session. One of the very interesting global trend as I see is there is very important market change, which means increasing number of consumers are interested to buy extra money for carbon-free energy and carbon-free product. Increasing number, not all of them, but increasing, like 5% or 10% of the people, they are looking for opportunity to contribute for climate change issues. Like Patagonia is a brand, more expensive, but consumers are still willing to pay for it because it's recycled plastic. So there's a consumer change. And this is presenting global trend, is presenting a very interesting opportunity for Central Asian country. I will give a concrete example because time is running out. I'm now proposing an idea of a world first carbon-free green cotton project idea, which meaning that, as you know, the cotton is a big dilemma in Central Asia. You wasting a lot of water, but the price of cotton is very cheap, so it's ecologically, socially very challenging. But smart farm can save water by 90%, save 90% water, and then running this smart farm with the solar energy from master project. So we can grow cotton from green energy on the smart farm, saving 90% of water, and then we can brand it as a carbon-free cotton. Then we can put it on the market, and I already identified that there are many groups of fashion, luxury fashion brands. They are looking for carbon-free cotton, and that they are willing to pay whatever the price is, because they believe using carbon-free cotton will appeal to the consumers, and that it can strengthen their brand power and marketing power. So this is showing the change of the market, change of the consumer behavior, preference. So this is a very interesting global trend, and I believe Central Asian country can take advantage of this change of market. So producing carbon-free energy, carbon-free product, selling at higher price. It is a very concrete strategy for green growth, because investing in green and making money. So this is a project which I'm now promoting in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan right now, and I am very much looking forward to Eurasian Development Bank support. Thank you. Master too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chon. I think we will find the balance between green growth model and traditional model to foster economic development of the region. And also, thank you very much for keeping in time your speech. Казахстан — это крупнейшая экономика.
Kazakhstan is the biggest market in 2024. GDP of Kazakhstan is $300 billion. And I'm confident that Kazakhstan in near future is already GDP $14,000 per capita. It is, and according to our estimation, Kazakhstan will be in a category of the high income country. In the decree of the President, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev had identified the priorities for the growth of the non-raw material sector, and we could see the fruits of the economy change. And I would like to ask a question to the Deputy Minister Economy, Mr. Arman Khasyanov. Arman Bakhtanovich, what are the priority sectors in terms of the implementation of the non-raw material sector? Thank you so much for your question. When we elaborate on international ranking agencies, despite that they look at our economy and we are under scrutiny, well, diversification had been successful. The share of the oil and gas sector is less and less, and of course, you can open your documents and then see whether we have decreased share of the oil and gas. It is decreasing. Why? Because other sectors are growing quite fast. And probably last year you had already heard that oil and gas didn't grow, it actually decreased because our economy is transforming. And of course, the aggregate growth is quite high. It is 1.5, 5 times higher than other economies. The situation is the same with the export, non-oil and gas segments as well, especially in refinery and processing sectors. It is 35% and 12% is the dollar equivalent, which is the high pace of the growth. Further, addressing your question, what's going to happen since the extraction is limited and we have constraints that comes from the nature, we know that we will get to the 105 billion tons of the oil within 5 years. We know that constraint of the growth is 17% and the role of the share of the oil and gas sector will be decreased. And of course, we would like to diversify, not because oil is growing slowly. We would like to have very fast growth in other sectors. This is how we would like to diversify. So, well, we hope that we won't have the surprises, but we would like to see in the structure of the GDP the sectors of the economy that will have high value added production, which is, it doesn't matter what economy it is, the added value sectors and production, high production sectors are very important. And you could even have, you can receive all of the reports on all the countries, and you could see the production of the labor of the European Union. And the production of the labor in the raw material sector is quite high. Even if you look as a share of the GDP per capita, and it could actually go ahead with if you compare with other sectors many, many times. This is the first condition. The second, high export. As you know, in Kazakhstan, we have opportunity to increase the share of the sectors of the processing of the raw materials as well as refining the raw materials. There's an interesting document, the National Plan of the Development. I would like to recommend you to read it. There are some facts that had been mentioned. 19% of the copper either had a low quality processing or didn't process it, was raw. Aluminium, for example, 87%. And then 70% of the aluminium. So we have a huge potential, and of course we could add the value to the lead metal, for example, and we could also to do everything actually. We could also process all of the products, and of course we could also increase the share of the processing and refining. And according to our estimations, we would have more than $100 billion. Actually, the projects amount to that cost $20 billion is already being implemented, and we are going to have the growth of the gross GDP added value for the metals as well as the chemical sector as well as other sectors. We have an understanding that we also could multiplicate all of the growth and the development, and of course 70% of the industry of Kazakhstan is there. Just think about the multiplicative effect that we are going to have from the growth to whole economy and how it will be reflected on the economy. And of course this growth will also benefit from the investments, and now we realize that investment activity could be increased by financial institutes of the development. So that is why this year we had identified that the equity will be increased up to 3 trillion, which is in order to be able to finance the projects on the that would amount to $14 and $15 billion each. And aggregate is going to be $100 billion, I would like to repeat again. So addressing your question, we think that there will be breakthrough in order to guarantee that we are ready to grow in investment activity through international investment agencies. Thank you so much, Arman Bakhadjanovich. Indeed, in Eurasian Bank of Development, the headquarters that is in Almaty is one of the member of which and trustee and the board member of which is Kazakhstan. The investment of the bank into the economy of the to Kazakhstan is more than $1 billion. And I think that it is close to be $2 billion. And I think that the shareholders would like to increase the equity of the bank so that it would in turn invest even more into Kazakhstan. And we'll be glad and to actually contribute more investments into Kazakhstan. Well, I would like to express gratitude, Arman Bakhadjanovich, and ask question to Minister of Economy of Kyrgyz Republic, to Mr. Sadikov. The question is, opening the hydro energy potential of Kazakhstan, so unlocking the hydrothermal energy. We know that Kyrgyzstan is rich with this potential. And what is your view? Thank you so much. Yes. Hydro energy potential of Kyrgyz Republic nowadays is something that hadn't been unlocked fully. Well, according to the estimation of the aggregate capacity of the hydro energy resources of Kyrgyz Republic nowadays is around more than 140 terawatt, which is only the ones that have been commissioned only from 10 to 13%. And nowadays, country itself, according to the economic growth, we are growing on 9% in average, and consumption is also growing. The deficit of the energy is more than 3 billion kilowatt hours annually. So we have a issue or challenge to be addressed, which is the deficiency, climate change, constraints on water resources, which is quite natural, let's say, to South Central Asia, since we experience the water scarcity. Well, we have some constraints regarding unlocking the resources that you have mentioned. This year, we had updated our strategy of national plan of development from 25 to 2030. We have identified 4 priority areas that government is in the near future, in near 5 years, going to implement, contribute into, which is industry, transport, logistics, a role of Kazakhstan, green energy, tourism, and organic agriculture. Green energy is the priority in this document, identified as a priority in this document. There are many, many projects that we are actually presenting to our investors, part of which are implemented, especially renewables, whole spectrum of the renewables, the solar, the wind, and higher hydrothermal as well. The pioneering and flagship projects that we are working on in the energy sector to the country is the Kamaralı power plant. It is not pure energetic and not pure national project. It is positioned as the transformative project and regional project.
Why transformative? Because the hydroelectric station is a huge building, including the reservoir. In total, more than 5 cubic kilometers of water, which will be accumulated and will be provided to downstreams of our neighbors like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan for irrigation purposes. This is the transformative as we are trying to get the energy to minimize the carbon footprint, and it is regional because just, besides energy, we are tackling the problem of the water supply for our neighboring countries. We realize that the generation is the part of the question, but there are also questions of connectivity, the stations, the wires. We hope that in the future we will commence the project of wires in Central Asia, which goes through Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, which are providing energy, and Afghanistan and Pakistan, which will be consuming the energy. There is an initiative of in the scale of Central Asia, which is supported by international financial institutions, informing the unified market between 5 countries, and our country is participating actively in these initiatives. We see it not as the Kyrgyzstan's projects, but also as regional processes, which are tackling the acute and pressing issues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There is a huge potential. Besides Kombarati, there are other projects. We are participating in other projects for hydroelectric stations. They are building the stations, and Kombarata is the key project for several countries, for Kazakhstan, for Uzbekistan, for Kyrgyzstan, and it is essential for us to implement it together. We believe that economic growth of Armenia for the recent years has been the fastest, and for the 3 years the economic growth was 8% per year, and the GDP has reached $26 billion. This growth has been enabled by the economic strategy of the government of the Republic of Armenia, but also with the active cooperation with EU countries and the countries from Eurasian region. Dear Georg, in which areas today we have huge potential in order to establish further cooperation with the neighbors in the Eurasian region, and what important projects are being implemented or are to be implemented soon? Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the side of Kazakhstan for inviting me and for the opportunity to discuss this topic. I agree that Armenia has demonstrated stable economic growth for the last years. And this is not just the result of the work of economy work of our government, but also the strategic course on diversification and establishing cooperations with other countries of the region, including, first of all, the countries of EU. Talking about the results of implementation of foreign policy, I would like to note that in 2024, compared to 2021, the export to EU countries has increased without taking into consideration the export. This figure was 3.8 times. When implementing the policy of foreign policy, I would like to say that we are paying a lot of attention to the cooperation with international partners, including the work in the EU. And today we see 3 main priorities where the potential of cooperation is high. First of all, it is the infrastructural integration, innovations, and human capital is the second, and the third is energy field and sustainable transformation. Let's start with the infrastructure. The government of Armenia is implementing the project of road crossing of the world, which is aimed at creating the transport and logistics hub, which will connect the west and east, north and south. And I would like to note that this project is not only for Armenia and its neighbors. First of all, it is an important opportunity for free and secure goods transportation. And in this relation, important role will be played by the agreement with Azerbaijan. And this will strengthen the regional cooperation and will give impetus to the development of turnover. Talking about the economic growth of Armenia, I would like to say that this is the result of several factors. First of all, it is the growth. It is the growth of number of highly qualified specialists. The second is the digitalization, and third is the growth of IT sector, and the fourth is the growth of consumption. The fifth is the investment, and the sixth is the so-called activization of export activities. Moreover, I'd like to say that huge growth is observed in such sectors as finances, tourist services, and of course, building and construction. We are also working on reconstruction of railroad connectivity. We modernize the roads. We are simplifying the customs procedures at borders, etc. Of course, these measures contribute to decrease of logistics costs, increase of goods turnover, and establishing further cooperation. As said before, the second is the innovation and human capital. Today, it is hard to imagine a developed country without high qualified specialists and innovations. And Armenia in this area is investing hugely in IT, education and science, and with the partners, we are creating the platforms for technological exchange and research and preparation of specialists of new generation. Here I see a huge potential for cooperation. And third, of course, energy field and sustainable development. I'm sure that the region needs sustainable connections. Armenia is working actively in creation of general energetic sphere in EU. We are working on infrastructure. We are also consecutively increasing the share of renewables. We invest for renewable sources, etc. And I would like to say what we are already implementing. Currently, we are modernizing the transportation for north and south. We are working on customs mechanisms in EU framework. We are establishing and strengthening the cooperation between businesses internationally and between businesses and government. We believe that the sustainable growth and competitiveness are only possible by deepening integration and technological renewal and with investment. I would also like to say that Armenia has always been and will be working on its strategy win-win in regional cooperation. Today, the global architecture of interests is changing swiftly, and Eurasia must be the area of common trust and mutual openness and cooperation. And we are ready to be active players of this process, as well as in the development of infrastructure and implementation of new technologies, as well as strengthening political dialogue and mutual understanding. I guess this is all I wanted to say. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Georg. I'm sure that with this quality of human capital which Armenia has, the growth speed will continue to be increased, and the EDB will support that.
Next speaker is Mustafa Adil, the head of Islamic Finance London Stock Exchange Group. A week ago at the Islamic Development Bank annual meeting, Eurasian Bank, Islamic Development Bank and London Stock Exchange Group presented our new joint report, The Future of Islamic Finance in Central Asia. The report estimates that Islamic banking assets in Central Asia will grow up to more than $6 billion within the next few years. Dear Mr. Adil, Islamic finance, ESG and economic growth. Where are the linkages? Can Islamic finance contribute substantially to the Eurasian economic growth? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nikolai, for the question. And I think it's very apt for us to consider whenever we're talking about global trends in sustainability or global trends in financing economic activity, not to overlook Islamic finance. I think for the benefit of the audience who may not be familiar with the industry, Islamic finance is no longer a niche segment, but has grown to be a $5 trillion subsegment of the financial services space. And while the assets are largely concentrated in markets like the GCC and Southeast Asia, it is a truly global industry. There is about over 1,900 Islamic financial institutions that are offering services in over 80 countries around the world, and this goes beyond the Muslim countries as well. There's about 60 regulators and government entities that are producing regulations to help facilitate the development of Islamic finance in their markets. And what we've seen is that even large financial centers like Hong Kong, Singapore, London, Luxembourg, the Philippines, all of them are utilizing Islamic finance, promoting Islamic finance, and even issuing sukuk or Islamic bonds to be able to tap in and support the development of that industry. When it comes to sustainability, the principles of sustainable finance have always been very much aligned with the principles of Islamic finance. With Islamic finance, not only is there a restriction on interest, but any kind of financing or investing activity has to be linked to either a real asset or an economic activity. You cannot just lend for the sake of lending. You have to be lending for the sake of developing assets or economic activity within your markets. In addition, in Islamic finance, you are not allowed to invest in any industry that is deemed harmful to society. So investing in alcohol, pornography, gambling, tobacco, weapons, and various other industries are strictly prohibited. And finally, there is a restriction on investing in purely speculative or synthetic transactions. So if you are investing purely to speculate on the movement of the market, or if you're investing in derivatives that have nothing to do with hedging on balance sheet positions, then that is another restriction within Islamic finance. So even 20, 30 years ago, when the literature around ESG investing and sustainable investing was being set up, Islamic finance was recognized even then as a form of sustainable finance. And we have seen these values and this value proposition support Islamic finance during times of turbulence. During the 2008 financial crisis, the Islamic banking institutions were protected largely because they did not have any exposure to MBS products or exotic instruments. During the recent period of interest rate increases that the Fed did a couple of years ago, and we saw a lot of bond prices crash, sukuk prices did not crash as much as the bond prices did, which shows that there is tangible economic activity that is underpinning the back of those instruments. But today we have moved on significantly. What was acceptable as sustainable finance 20 years ago is no longer acceptable. We have requirements around disclosure, we have requirements around use of proceeds for what is deemed to be sustainable finance today, and the Islamic finance industry is already adopting to that. When we look at the banking sector, you have the likes of Malaysia and the UAE issuing specific guidelines on how Islamic banking activity has to fully be in compliance with sustainability, and the appropriate disclosures, the value addition that they're creating, that has to be disclosed. And when we look at the sukuk space, you already have about $50 billion worth of sustainable sukuk that is linked to some form of international green bond standards, including standards issued by ICMA and various other institutions, to bring it in line with what is internationally accepted as sustainable. So there is a very, very strong convergence, and I believe a significant part of this $5 trillion industry will move towards sustainable projects. But what I want to really close on is the opportunity that Islamic finance presents, because it is a tremendous opportunity. As you mentioned, currently the assets sit under $1 billion in Eurasia. That is expected to grow to $4.5 billion in the next 4 years, expected to go to $12 billion in the next 9 years. So exponential growth is projected. And that growth will come from tapping into the local market and being able to provide that, but also to be able to tap into other pockets of Sharia-sensitive capital. So we know that there is excess capital that sits in the GCC that is looking for investment opportunities. And this is demonstrated by the fact that whenever a jurisdiction issues a conventional bond and sukuk side by side, the sukuk is always oversubscribed compared to the conventional bond. And the coupon is always lower, which means there's excess demand. So that is an area where institutions can tap into and the Eurasia market can tap into. And in addition to that, what I would also like to add is Islamic finance also gives institutions the ability to be able to attract capital from retail consumers. We have seen in Indonesia, the Indonesian government has been able to raise over $22 billion through issuing retail sukuk to their consumers. We have seen in the UAE, the government of Dubai has been able to raise over $4 billion by issuing retail sukuk through a project called National Bonds, or Sukuk al-Watni, which is in the local market. So Islamic finance not only allows the industry to be able to trade across markets, but it also brings capital from the local market and utilizes it for productive initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Adil. I'm sure that we will bring Islamic finance to Central Asia and to Eurasia to unlock the economic potential of the region. Thank you.
I would like to draw conclusion of our session. Thank you so much. I would like to extend gratitude to all of the speakers for the deep presentations, informative presentations, the ideas. Thank you so much for organizing. So I would like to extend gratitude to Kazakhstan for organizing this kind of event, and this is great that we have this kind of platform where we could address all of the vital issues and pressing matters, and this is great that under the agenda of the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, we have this kind of event, and I would like to draw a conclusion of our survey. We could see on the first place is the external demand, which is the human capital. Without professionals, without people, without talents, nothing could happen. Internal growth, internal demand is very, very important driver. Of course, green economy elements also shall have a place and room for improvement. And of course, right after the speaker from Masdar, we had growth in this, in green economy. Well, this is our session. Thank you so much for participation. And our ladies would like to give us souvenirs to all our speakers. Thank you so much in order to commemorate today's session.